Today's video is going to be a little bit of a special treat. We're actually looking at Pegola's account today, and we're going to take it over. We're going to take his clan boss team, which is currently only doing 3 key on Ultra Nightmare. This is with Ganute in the team, and we're going to see if we can't take him all the way to 1 key. Now, we might not get there, but we're going to have a good time trying to figure out how. Welcome, I'm the DeadwoodJedi. This is the Raid Shadow Legends video. We are, as I said in the beginning, doing a takeover. I haven't done one of these in a while, and I really do enjoy doing these when I can, especially on an account like this, where it has really good potential. It's just being a little bit underutilized. So we can come in, use some of our knowledge to make this a little bit better. And if you guys, any of you guys want some account takeover, whether it's for clan boss, dungeons, hydras, you just need some help with your account, even a gear cleanse, or perhaps some coaching. It's one of my favorite things to do. Spend 30 minutes talking with one of you guys one-on-one over Discord and impart some of the knowledge I have and answer your questions. It's a really fun thing. Anyway, I offer all that on the website. So if you're interested in any of that, go to my website, DeadwoodJedi.com. But with this account, with Pegola, we want to go ahead and try and get his clan boss team to a much better spot. And we're going to try to do that. Now, we're going to do that. I'm confident we're going to get him to a better spot than he is, because right now he's only doing about 3 keys on Ultra Nightmare, and it's just really not pulling the weight considering the team he's using there and the champs that he has available. I think with his account, if we can get the gear right, I think we're actually going to try to build him a potentially 1 key Ultra Nightmare team. It's one of those teams that can go full auto from the jump, should work on every affinity. A little bit of a change you have to do on spirit, but that's not a huge thing. And I think it can be extremely helpful for him if we can get it working. Now, he might not be able to get to 1 key today just because, you know, it's about the gear, it's about the champions. You have to have everything kind of in sync to make that work. But even if we can't get there today, what we're going to be able to do is set him up in the future to have really good success and get there eventually. Like, guaranteed he'll be able to get there eventually as long as he keeps farming his gear. So we're going to see what we can do. Now, I want to take a look at his champions, because one of the things we like to do and one of the fun things about account takeovers like this is the possibilities. I get to look at somebody else's account and go, okay, what would I use? Who would I use where? What's the best team to use on this, you know, with what I have available? And so looking at this team, there's a lot of options. He's got a lot of options here. Obviously, you can see plenty of legendaries that are high quality. He's even got some more lower down that are also really nice. Not everything's good for clan boss, right? But a lot of this is. We can actually show the master vault here too, so you can see everything that he's got going on, right? Definitely some good options here. The ones that are jumping out to me, however, are, of course, when we're looking clan boss, first thing I'm going to look for, do we have unkillable champions? Because those teams are easier to build. They're just as successful as a traditional team with a lot lower gear requirements. So a lot of times we can do a lot better damage by building an unkillable team. And so what am I looking for here? Well, I'm looking for unkillable champions, right? One of them stands out. We've got Helikath right there, an amazing champion. Really, really good, of course. Lots of teams involve him, but he's not the only option. We've got Demitha. We've got Maneater, maybe the most OP out of all the unkillable champions, right? And so now we're going, okay, well, we have a few options here as far as unkillable teams. There's probably even a Warcaster in here somewhere. So we have some options, right? We can build, there's plenty of, Hellcat or Cat Eater team, right? We're using a Maneater and a Helikath. It's actually a really good option. You get to bring in multiple DPS. But it is more of like everybody goes like a 4-3 ratio, right? You get a little bit of an extra turn, but not quite a 2-1 ratios type team. With the Demitha in here, and yes, we do have a Seeker. Now that opens up a lot of other possibilities. Maybe we want to do a Myth Air team. Maybe we want to try to do a Myth Fu team, but I don't see a Fu Shan. So that could be a little bit tricky if we don't have the speed aura to get to those speeds, right? This is kind of a mid-game account. If we're looking at the speeds we have, and this is an important place to start, like Arbiter's only got 240 speed. That's on the slower side of things. Helikath's over here around 200. Now, I actually don't mind these builds, right? Everything's in that 200 speed range, which is a good place to start, you know, as you're going up. Speed is king, so the more speed you can get, generally the better off you're going to be, but I don't see anybody here rocking over 220, and that's going to really limit the possibilities that we can have here, right? We want to be able to get our champions, if we're really talking clan boss fast teams. I mean, we're talking at least 240, even for those, you know, like the Hellcat teams, probably trying to go even faster than that, 280, 290. We're trying to use one of those big Demitha teams, right? So, you know, what are we going to do? Well, after looking at this account, I did look a little bit ahead of time and looked at some of the gear. I think we can make some of these, myth teams work. In fact, the one I'm going to try to do, or I should say my team's going to try to do today, is our myth hair team, right? Now we have the myth air team with Eris, but we're going to use the myth hair team with the rabbit, the hare, Razzlevarg. And so that's going to be the squad we're going to be using today. It's an awesome team because, like I said, it does work for all affinities. It is full auto when it's working, except for everything except for spirit, and works for all the difficulties. So it's a really strong team. And I think it's going to work really nicely. And with Razzlevarg's aura, the speeds required are actually considerably lower. We have one champion that's go really fast. And I generally find it's easier to get one champion really fast than to get the whole team really fast. And that's one of the advantages of this one. So we're going to have to make Demitha really, really fast. But everybody else we can have at a pretty reasonable, like 210, 212 speed. It's going to make it a lot easier to build this squad. And I think that's going to give us a really good opportunity to have some success. So then the question becomes, okay, I got that. I know the team I want to use. What are the requirements? Well, we're going to need, obviously, Razzlevarg, who's a damage-dealing champion. So that's really good for us. We're also going to need Seeker, obviously, to get us those speeds. Another damage-dealing champion, also really good for us. And Demitha, that's a no-brainer, right? Obviously, we have to be able to block the damage. And then we're looking at what's the rest. Well, the two things we need to make it affinity-friendly. So we do need a block debuff champion. Unfortunately, out of this, because we do want somebody with a 2-turn duration on that block debuff, it really looks like Pythion might be our best choice. Now, there are ways, I should say. Well, not really. I mean, you really want that. You need that 2-turn block debuff because the block debuff champion's only going to be taking 2 turns every time. So it's going to be on 3-turn cooldown. We need it to last for 2 turns. It's kind of a high bar. Brogni is the obvious choice for this position. Without a Brogni, I think Pythion's going to do the job really well for us. A cleanser doesn't really work for this team, so it is a little bit more limited in your options. So Pythion, unfortunately, isn't a damage dealer. So this is definitely the negative of this team, right? I so wish we had a better option here. I wish we had a Brogni, to be honest with you guys, but we don't. So without that, that's fine. We can adjust. We're going to use Pythion, and then it comes down to who our DPS is. And here's the debate, right? Because we could bring in Ganute. Ganute's great, but he only brings a weakened debuff. Nobody else in this team has a decreased defense debuff. That's going to hurt. Now, if we were to do a myth air team, like the traditional one with a, Eris and a Deacon Armstrong, Ganute would be an obvious choice. He brings the weaken, Deacon brings the decreased defense. Now we have all the debuffs we really need, right? But that's not the case here. So I'm hesitant to bring him in. He still has that big max HP hit. He'll still do a lot of damage, but it's going to depress the damage of everybody else. We could use Venus, and Venus is an amazing champion. But the problem with Venus isn't exactly a hard-hitting champion, right? We'll have our poisons, we'll have our HP burn, we'll have our decreased defense and our weaken, but that's kind of it, right? We don't get any raw damage from her. Not like to a significant extent. You can build anybody to deal some damage, but it's not the kind of level that I really want to do. So that's not my favorite choice. And there's one other really important thing when choosing your DPS. Are they better off somewhere else on your team? Both Venus and Ganute are fantastic in every single dungeon, and more importantly, are phenomenal in Hydra. Do I want to build these champions slow so that they're not as useful in things like dungeons and Hydra? No, I don't. So I think the better option is to find someone that can do the job, and I don't really have to share them anywhere else, or the speeds I'm using them at will work if I bring them to some other area. And after looking at all the options, right, we could go with a Geomancer. Always is going to be a good option for us. And with those blessings, might even be the best option. But I think our best option, I think the one I would like to go to, is going to be an epic that is absolutely phenomenal because he hits about as hard as most legendaries out there, which makes him a remarkable champion. And if you know, you know. But I'm going to be talking about, let's see if I can find him. Oh, there's a second man-eater too. Wow, a lot of options on this squad here. But I think what we're going to go with is, there he is, all the way at the bottom, Anax. Then why would I use Anax? Well, Anax is absolutely one of the best champions in this game, especially for clan boss. He has decreased defense on his A1. He has poisons on his A2, and he has weaken on his A3. And most importantly, out of all that, is that his multipliers are insanely high and he hits insanely hard. So of all the epics in this game for clan boss, he's really my favorite to use when I can. Now the problem is he does have a passive, so he can't be used in every team. If he gets an extra turn when his HP drops below 10%, there are multiple teams where he won't work with, but block damage teams are fine because his HP will never get that low. And this is why he becomes an ideal choice for this style of team. So anyway, that's a lot to say. That's all I'm saying is that there's a lot of great options here, but this is a team I'm going to go with. I'm going to try using a Nax as our DPS, and we're going to build that myth hair team. And I think we're going to get a really good result. Now, if for some reason this account couldn't make the speeds, which I know it can, so I'm not worried about, but if it couldn't, because we've got two man-eaters, because we have a man-eater and a helicath, there's multiple options as far as approaches to this. We could even go with a helicath and the mythic combo. There's slower options that won't maybe get us the 1 key right away, but could 2 key for us. And a lot of those could potentially 1 key. We would just have to have stronger gear, stronger DPS champions, and just have to advance the count over time. And those are great teams because you can grow as the account grows. So does the damage on your clan boss team. That's always kind of a fun thing. But I think we're going to try and skip ahead a little bit. We're going to skip the 2 key and aim for that 1 key damage. And we'll see if we can get there or not. But yeah, we'll come back in just a minute. I'm going to rebuild this team and then we'll come back and look at it. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss the next one. All right, we finished rebuilding this team. Now it's time to try a run here and see what we can do. So we're going to jump in. And as we said before we started, this myth hair team, which we were able to build, is full auto. So I don't have to do anything. I can just click go and it'll run on its own. And once we build this team strong enough to 1 key, then we can auto key it. That's really fun, right? But we start off myth, one of the great things about Razzlevarg, any of the Razzlevarg teams, because he gives them so those increased speed buffs, the speeds overall for these champions is very slow, right? Everybody here pretty much outside of Demitha is extremely slow, which is a huge advantage for us. We're not going to get any damage outside of Anax and Seeker and Razzlevarg, so that's definitely going to be, the cap on what we can do. Now, it also is a problem, right? There's a red affinity boss, which means Seeker's going to be weak hitting, Razzlevarg's going to be weak hitting, but as you can see, when they do crit, they can do significant damage. Razzlevarg doing like 120,000 with his triple hit A1, and with the War Mat or the Giant Slayer ability on there, those masteries, you can even up that damage further. We're getting a lot of the smite and keeping that on the boss, which is really good for us and means that we're going to get plenty of extra damage along the way. So I'm not anticipating a 1 key right now, and definitely not against this affinity, but there is some potential for this team to be able to do that in the future, which I think would be really great for us. I think actually Spirit Affinity is going to be the best damage affinity for this team, simply because everybody's going to be strong or neutral affinity against it. But this is still going to be a very easy 2 key kind of team. So anyway, that's the squad. We can watch as it goes. You can see we're actually filling the debuff bar up when we have a Nax out there, which is really great. Takes so many attacks. We are getting plenty of poisons out there. We're getting decreased defense. We're keeping weaken on. Really nice champion to bring in for clan boss. One of my favorite go-tos as an epic level DPS champion. He's pretty much my go-to if he can work for that team. And so that's what we're using, and I think it's working pretty darn well here. So let's take a look at the champions, how they were built, and then we'll come back at the end and see how this run did. So looking at the champions and how I built them, we've got Razzlevarg here, and I think we got in a kind of a mixed sets going on, right? Some sets in there to get us some more stats, speed, accuracy, that sort of thing. But really, we're looking stats over stats, right? Stats are always gonna be the most important thing, and got them all set up, right? 190 speed, pretty decent attack at 4,600, I would say. We've got 100% crit rate, good crit damage, and more than enough accuracy. Now we don't need the accuracy for this run, but it's going to make Razzlevarg useful in other areas of the game, which is always important to keep in mind. We're not using these champions in a vacuum, right? It takes pretty high level accounts to be like, these champions are only for clan boss. So at this account, with some of the champions we're using, like Razzlevarg, Python, we're going to want to be able to use them in other areas, and so it's helpful to build them in that vein. And so that's what we're going to be able to do with this team, right? He has a leech, which we don't need for this particular run because we are going against, we're having a block damage team, right? We're not going to be losing any damage here. So not something we need to actually actively worry about landing. but it is going to be good for his blessing, which is Brimstone. So that's something we're going to want to keep in mind here. Does have support masteries, which is great. We're not taking any problematic ones, nothing turn meter, nothing extending the duration of buffs, so we should be in good shape with this one. We also have Pytheon. Now, Pytheon, you'll notice, is in a regen set and a Defiance set. This is actually built for other areas of the game. We're talking about Hydra, we're talking about Arena, and I think that's a smart move. Pytheon's not a big damage dealer, only there to block debuffs and make us affinity friendly, and so it makes sense to build him in a way that we can use him for other areas of the games. High HP, solid defense, right? Masteries that are going to help us survive and do extra healing. These are all the ways we want to do it. Not even building with 100% crit rate, I think makes sense because we're going to be using him in multiple areas of the game. And so that's one of those things that you want to keep in mind as you're building your champions. Obviously, we have to get the speed, but outside of that, if they're not a big damage dealer, you really have a lot more flexibility as far as building them to be used in other areas of this game. And I think that works really, really good. We also have Seeker here, and Seeker is obviously a heck of a champion. We do have accuracy on Seeker. We have some resistance. We don't really need any of that for Clan Boss. And so those are things that I would look to remove if possible, but we're definitely missing some of the accessory stuff that can make us better. I don't believe there's any attack banners in this faction as an example, so there's definitely room to improve. But one of the things we want to look at when we're building people for damage is we want to at least triple their base attack. Seeker's base attack is 1,000. Having 3,300 attack on Seeker is a pretty solid number. We're going to get benefits out of that, plus good crit damage. So I'm really liking this build. We also have Anax as our other damage dealer, and same kind of concept, right? We're missing some of the accessories that could really help up our damage. We could lose some of the accuracy and switch that over to attack. We do have some mixed sets going on in here, and all those things can, you know, as we get better and better, we can even finish rolling up all of our gear. But as we get better and better gear, we're going to be able to up and up that damage and really, you know, increase the attack numbers, increase the crit damage numbers, and get us better damage numbers overall. So that's something to look forward to as this account advances. And then very last, of course, we have Demitha. Demitha here at 295 speed. That's going to be the hard part for a team like this, to get somebody that fast. But once you're able to do that, everything else kind of falls into place. And again, not a big damage dealer. 100% crit rate is good, so we can do more damage when we do attack. But we don't really have to worry about that. I would want to actually build up the HP a little bit more to add to the survivability of Demitha, so that if we do use her somewhere else, she's going to be more viable for that. So that's what we got going on here. Those are the champions. So close, 69 million. So close to a 1 key. I think if this team goes against Void, this would be a 1 key, full auto, right? That's the type of team you want to build there. Get that full auto team so you can just instant run your teams after that point. It's really close. I mean, it's really right on the edge of being that 1 key. So really, really cool team. And definitely fun, and I think worth building. You can see Anax and Razzlevarg just doing boatloads of damage, right? Once we get some attack banners too, even on this affinity and with some good RNG, I think this would be an easy 1-key team. Both the Nax and Secret don't have attack banners, and both of them would benefit from it. That would be a huge, huge addition for this team. A very simple little change. So as you guys can see, you know, with a little bit of work, a little bit of speed tuning, and a little knowledge of how to build your teams, you can have really big and significant results. I mean, we took this team from a 3-key Ultra Nightmare team to what really is going to be eventually a 1-key Ultra Nightmare team. I mean, we're like on the cusp there, right? So really close, really nice team. I really like it a lot, and my team did a great job building this for Pegala, I think that's the name, right? Anyway, it was really fun to be able to see this team kind of in action. I haven't been able to look at a Razzlevark team in a little bit, so that was very fun too. If you like this team, I will have it linked down below. And as always, if you want account work on your account, you can feel free to contact us. It's just on the website. We have a whole link of where you can go to get, you know, account work if that's what you want, whether it's Clan Boss, Hydra, maybe just clear some gear out of your account. I mean, there's so many options. Coaching, one of my favorite things to offer. So plenty of stuff, plenty of opportunities there for you guys if that's something you're interested in. But if not, keep tuning in, watch my videos where we go over stuff, and I try to give you guys the best advice and help I can to make your teams, whether Clan Boss or something else, that much better. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I do appreciate you. Until next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.